Now, I'd like to introduce Reverend Ralph Hodge, Faith Outreach Manager for Virginia Interfaith Power and Light, for our opening prayer.
Good evening, everyone. Let us pray. Almighty God, God of justice and God of truth, we come seeking your wisdom and your guidance. Lead us and empower us to love mercy and do justice. Empower us like the prophets of old to speak truth to power. Strengthen us with the power of our ancestors to get into good trouble. Let us not get weary in well-doing, but help us to endure with resiliency of your spirit. In the beginning, Lord, you declared the land, the water, and the air were good. Help us to hold the powers and corporations accountable, to be good stewards of this good earth that you have blessed us with. Bless this meeting tonight and constantly remind us that faith without works is dead. Amen.
Amen. Oh, thank you, Reverend Hodge. And now we begin our stories. Some of our storytellers are from our own county. Others are from counties that have faced the threat of fossil fuel infrastructure. Some are faith leaders, some are just plain old folk, and some are experts who have made environmental safety and justice their life's work. All will seek to explore and inform our moral calling to work for environmental justice, creation care, and protection of our children's future. Storytellers, we will ask you to each introduce yourselves as you begin. And now, please welcome Belinda Joyner.
First, I would like to say good evening to everybody. My name is Belinda Joyner. I live in Garrisburg, North Carolina, which is about 10 miles from the Virginia state line on the I-95 side. I'm about 5 minutes ride from Interstate 95. I live in Northampton County, which I refer to as a dumping ground because years ago we had a commissioner who has passed on, and he was truly a commissioner for Northampton County. And he told me a long time ago that being that we live right on the corner of I-95, that everything that they wanted to try to bring, they would bring it here because it was easy access. And he didn't lie. We're home to Industrial Hog Farm. We're home to Enviva. We would have been at home to the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, but to God be the glory, that's no longer in existence. We're a tier 1 county, so we're poor, predominantly African American, and I use that to say that that's why we are basically used as a dumping ground, being a tier 1 county, being a poor county, living below the poverty level. They think that anything and everything, if we offer it to them, they're going to take it. And that the word economic development, if I could just do away with that altogether, because that's the false pretense that they use to bring this here is, oh, we're going to bring jobs, we're going to do this, that, and the other. And with the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, I was working with a young lady. She was a student at UNC Chapel Hill, and she was doing her dissertation on, well, she was an art major. So she would come out and take pictures, and rather than have this young lady to kind of go around by herself, she would come and pick me up, being that I lived here in Northampton County, and I would go with her out. And the only people that we saw that looked like me was one gentleman that was working, and the other lady drove the street cleaner. When they put all the dirt in the road, they had a street cleaner to come and clean the dirt. She drove that. All the other cars were like out of town cars, And I kept saying when they were talking about bringing this here, they're not going to be going up and down 301 where the people will be affected and say, do you want a job? They have to bring people here to know what they're doing in order to do this. If you've never laid a pipeline before, they're not just going to come and offer you a job. And this is what happened. But I go back to our local government and I tell people, this is where you need to be in the meetings, economic development meetings, planning board meetings, and your county commissioner meetings, because your economic developer is going to supposedly go out and find development to bring to your community. It goes from there to the planning board, and from the planning board to your county commissioners. I finally got people to go out to these meetings. When we went there, we were called, a friend of mine, we were the first two that had ever in the history of North Carolina went to an economic development meeting. And I tell them this is where it comes. So if you want to kind of head off things, you need to be in these meetings to hear what they're proposing to bring to your county. Then you can take it back and you have a chance to organize and fight it. But, you know, with the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, I use the term drinking the Kool-Aid, and evidently the Kool-Aid was good to the mayor, it was good to the commissioners, it was good to everybody that was involved, because one way or another, they profited. We, like I said, predominantly Black community, we had people that was left in what they call a high consequence zone, wherein if they had had an explosion or a pipe ruptured, they would have been the first ones that would have been blown up. When I asked our county state manager, Mike Sprayberry, in the event that we would have an explosion, how long would it take a hazmat team to get here? And he told me 90 minutes, because they would have to come from Raleigh, North Carolina here. So the next question I asked, well, what do you think you will find when you get there? So this is what we're up against, but thank God for Kay Ferguson and all the people from Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. We had a tri-county strike in Roanoke, Virginia at the Wells Fargo Bank, because there are some of the people that was loaning the people the money for the pipeline. And we had a nice strike up there, and it was successful. And I tell anybody, when I got that message on July the 5th, and I got a call from Lisa Soar, she's a reporter, and she said to me, when I read that the pipeline, you know, was through, and I said it was like David and Goliath. Nobody thought that David could kill Goliath with that little slingshot and that one stone, but he did. And I contribute that to all the people coming together as one, stand together and fighting. Thank you.
Thank you. I was trying to send a chat to everybody to let them know that you're going to be my guest on the Viewpoint this Saturday. So everyone, we can get more of the story and more information from this dynamic woman. Thank you. And nice
thanks for inviting me.
Okay. And she's not going to be able to stay, so check out the Viewpoint on Saturday. And thank you for your time. And now we're honored to welcome Bishop Kell Stone. Is Bishop Stone on the call?
I thought I saw him. He may have dropped off.
Okay, well, if he comes back on, just let him know that there's a space for him.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. It's now Dr. Mary Finley Brooke.
I'm happy to be with everybody tonight. Thank you so much. So I'm Mary Finley Brooke from the University of Richmond, and I also serve on the board of the Virginia Environmental Justice Collaborative. What I want to talk to tonight, I want to start with the main line, the MVP, the Mountain Valley Pipeline main line. We know upstream it is unsound planning, overpriced, delayed, dangerous. We know that the companies have proven to be unreliable, unresponsive, manipulative, and dishonest. So what does that mean for the extension? We don't really want to find out, as you know, but the Lambert compressor station is a choke point. And the reason why it's a choke point is all of the permits downstream have been denied. North Carolina has figured out they don't want this project. So Virginia's going to figure out that this also needs to be rejected. And that's going to happen on September 17th. There's two reasons why the Air Board is going to reject this as an illegal project. And they're going to be able to use our state policy, our EJ Act, our 2020 EJ Act. There's two reasons why they will be able to say no to this project. The first reason is there was not meaningful involvement. Sometimes that's also called meaningful engagement or meaningful participation. It's a bit of a moving target, but what that means is community members are being informed with early information. They're getting accurate information. They're being heard and listened to. What we see instead is not that. We see a one-way street. We see perhaps in some instances people being handed packaged information at a very late state and maybe being able to ask questions. That's a one-way street. A two-way street, which would be meaningful participation, would be when impacted people are being able to, at those early design phases, be able to make a difference in their input back. And that is what has not happened. What's particularly in violation in cases like this is where they come in with last minute donations or offsets to suggest that this could mitigate harm. And then they say there is no harm. So that definitely is not an example of meaningful involvement or engagement. The other reason why this project is illegal is the site is not suitable. It is not suitable for several reasons. One, we know that there's disproportionate impact, both based on race and also on income. But we also know that there's been an unfair burden in the Bannister district and these surrounding areas because of the Transco compressor station that has been polluting the air for so long. We know that there are high levels of adult asthma. We know that there have been and are high levels of particulate matter. So for this reason, it is an unsuitable site to locate the project. And the statute of the Air Board does allow them to look at site suitability. The Board of Supervisors switched the zoning at the last minute without public input. And we know that there will be long-term impact, including once Virginia switches off of gas and this project has to be decommissioned. So for all of those reasons, I know that it's going to be important for Virginia to comply with the law and do the right thing, and the Air Board will need to reject this project. I'm going to pass my time now, pass over to Nick Bellinger of Virginia Organizing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks very much. My name is Nick Bellinger. I'm with Virginia Organizing, and I'm staff for our Danville and Martinsville Henry County chapter. So appreciate everybody being here for this. I'm not actually going to talk a lot about pipelines or compressor stations because I don't know a whole lot about that. I'm learning along with everybody else on here. But I do want to tell a story about what it looks like when people work together to get things done. Right in Southside Virginia. So this actually goes, I didn't ask either of the people I'm about to mention if it's okay to mention them, so I hope it is. The story I'm telling goes back to the Danville Public Library in 2013 when Richard Walker and Anita Royston and a few other people got together and started talking about rights for people who were coming out of incarceration, and this idea of ban the box came up, giving people with felonies on their record a chance to make it to the interview stage in the hiring process. And we hadn't heard of this before. We'd been doing a ton of restoration of rights work. We'd done a lot of jobs work before, but we didn't know about this ban the box thing. But over the course of a few months, with the work of people who were most directly affected, I'm talking people who'd been locked up themselves, had family, children, siblings who'd been incarcerated, and then a whole mess of allies, people who had worked either in kind of social services or in probation department, churches, came together to say that we really wanted to see this happen in Danville. And I'm going to fast forward through the middle part of this. What was, I think Anita could agree, a kind of long, sometimes winding around kind of story. But at the end of the city council meeting where they were deciding whether or not to put this ordinance in place, there was some confusion about the wording, and they looked to the back of the room where Anita and Marty Jackson were standing, and the mayor looked for either a thumbs up, do it, or a thumbs down, kill it. And with a quick huddle, we said, this is close enough to what we're looking for, and we're excited about this. I don't think anybody 6 months before that happened would have said that the mayor would care a whole lot about what Virginia Organizing or any of our members or any of our allies really had to say about it. But I think that when people work together, some surprising things happen sometimes. So I feel in a lot of ways that this is what's happening right here, right now. We're starting to put our heads together, and that there's a good chance that a month or a few months from now, might get some good news that surprises us too. So hopeful, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here with y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we're very glad to have Richard Walker.
Wow, Nick, you took my memory back. Danville and Pittsylvania County were the first stops on the Mobile Justice Tour back in 2013 when we did mobilizing communities up and down the state of Virginia. And I'm grateful that you remembered. I'm Richard Walker. I'm the founder and CEO of Bridging the Gap in Virginia. But more importantly, I'm a fifth generation of my great-great-grandfather, Taylor Harper, who purchased his land in Union Hill, Buckingham County for $15 back in 1867. And then subsequently, his son, Arthur Taylor, ultimately purchased the balance of land from the slave owner's son some years later. And then that's where I came into play with folk like Circle of Protection, Friends of Buckingham, when we found out that Dominion wanted to build this monstrous pipeline, and they wanted to make a connection that on the current Transco line that's already existed on my family's land, you know. So we put up the best fight that we could, you know, where, as you heard from Mary, they did not do a site sustainability study. They did not do an environmental justice impact study. They did nothing, but felt that they can come through to a primarily historical African-American community and just run roughshod over us, thinking that we're a bunch of ignorant Black folk that didn't know no better and they can take advantage of it. Little did they know that we had a force behind us, that we stopped all of that. You know, folk came out on a daily basis, regular basis, and we continue to fight them. They came in there bringing their money, pushing their wares on folk that caused a division in that community, you know, where they were trying to pay people off. They had already gotten to the county board of supervisors. They had already paid them off. Now they were trying to get to the community members to divide that community. You know, I implore you folk in Pittsylvania County to band together, because it is not a done deal. You know, it is not a done deal. By the time it came to the air board, you know, we had multiples of people, multiple of organizations that we came in there and we flooded the place out. You know, where they had to call in the state troopers thinking that we're going to do something wrong and turn the place over, you know. But that's what it took. And then we went to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. The judges undoubtedly, unanimously, all three of them said that this is not going to be followed through by Dominion, that he canceled it right there in the courtroom, and we got the decision, and then we all have been celebrating ever since. That's what needs to happen in Pittsylvania County. You folk need to come together and pull all your forces together and fight this monstrosity that is doing no good for anybody, the environment, or the earth. I thank you for inviting me, and I hope that I run into you folk that we can meet. If I have to, we will meet at the air board meeting, and we'll have a great time celebrating. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, preacher. All right. Oh, we're excited to hear now from Mark Sabbath.
Thank you, and it's really good to be here, and it's really good and daunting to follow Richard Walker, but he is making the point that I want to make. I'm a senior attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center. We are a legal and advocacy organization here in Virginia and in 5 other southeastern states. And what I want to emphasize is just how important the personal stories of the people, of the communities impacted by a facility like this are to the legal fight against a facility like this compressor station. And Richard Walker is a perfect example of that. So SELC represented Friends of Buckingham in the successful court challenge to the air permit for the Buckingham compressor station, part of the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. And as Richard said, the Dominion and the developers wanted to put that compressor station in a historic African-American community of Union Hill, community that had been founded by formerly enslaved people at the end of the Civil War, and a community where a door-to-door study that was conducted with the involvement of many community members showed that many of the residents had respiratory, heart conditions, other conditions that would have been exacerbated by the emissions from that kind of compressor station, and from the kind of compressor station that is now proposed by Mountain Valley Pipeline for Pittsylvania County. But the people of Union Hill organized. They were vocal at the hearings. They put evidence before the board. And even though the air board did approve the permit there, when that court challenge went forward, the Fourth Circuit, as Richard said, threw out that permit. And I think there are just two things to learn from that that are really important here. I mean, one is that Friends of Buckingham case confirmed that in deciding whether to approve a permit for a polluting facility like a compressor station, the Air Board has to consider environmental justice, and specifically it has to consider whether the people living closest to the facility will be affected more than people living across the county or in other areas, particularly when we're talking about communities of color and lower income communities. But the other thing that's so important is that it's quite possible that we would not have won that case without the powerful stories that we heard from the members of the Union Hill community, the Richard Walkers, the Ella Roses, the John and Ruby Lauries, and many others. These are people who had lived in a community for decades, who told the stories of their families and could describe the specific effects that the air pollution and other impacts from a facility like this would have on them and on their families. And that was so important. That's not what you read as sort of the basis in the opinion by the court for why the permit should get thrown out, but that had to have an effect on the judges because it was such a compelling story. And so it's really important for the board members to hear that, and it's really important if the board approves the permit for courts to hear that in a subsequent legal challenge. So I commend the Pittsylvania County NAACP for organizing this event and really encourage people here and elsewhere who have stories to tell from the community to tell your story and make your voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so difficult not to just comment, but I am gonna say something quickly for all of you who are listening, beyond the speakers who are listening. Hear how very important it is to tell your story and to have your relatives and people that you know in your community, ask them how they've been doing health-wise and ask them about generations of asthma and such. Okay, I'm not on the agenda to speak, but that's it. I just had to say that. Next, please welcome Martha Woody.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting to come up so soon. I was engrossed in the speakers before me. So fortunately, I have had some time to get my thoughts together. And I'm not going to speak like Nick, not going to speak specifically to the issue of the Mountain Valley Pipeline or the Lambert compressor station, because I feel like I've just dipped my toes in that water. I do want to say I'm a longtime member of Virginia Organizing, and one of the things that I've become more and more aware of in the work that I've participated in with Virginia Organizing is just how privileged I have been. I can't remember which part of the Bible this comes from about to whom much is given, much is expected. But I do feel a responsibility to use whatever talents or energy that I have in order to leave the world a little bit better than I found it. And I will say that I am a member of Oheb Zion Synagogue here, and one of the primary tenets of Judaism is tikkun olam, which is Hebrew for healing the world. And so that is, I hope, certainly a guiding star for me. But so I don't have a story, but I hope to support those who do. And another member of Virginia Organizing from Martinsville by the name of Dennis Hairston told the story one time about being able to stand on his front porch in the west end of town, which is the predominantly African-American area, and being able to shoot the rats at the city dump. So the city dump was not put in Dennis's area of the city by chance. That happened by design.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
hoping that I can help to make those stories more visible. Thank you all very much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And I'm going to just take a moment to share a little bit of my story as the chair for the Pittsylvania County NAACP. They're just putting together committees for the branch. When it came to the environmental justice, and this was just a few months ago, I started listening and thinking about the environment. And when I spoke to Elizabeth, it was happening to her. So that's how we really got started. And all of a sudden, all of these organizations, these wonderful organizations, and some of them are represented right now today, became a part of what we were doing. And some of our allies, Sierra Club, that I didn't really know a lot about them until they jumped in the fight. Artivism, and I already knew, and she's done so much, and I already knew Nick because of Virginia Organizing. And these are organizations and people who have galvanized, who are at the ready to fight for a just cause. And this truly is one. We went door knocking yesterday, Elizabeth and her husband, Anderson, and I. And as we were going door knocking, we were talking to, well, we only talked to four of the 13 people, of the homes. And it was interesting that one young guy that came to the car, we didn't get out because of the dogs barking, but he came to the car and we were asking him questions about who lived there, because Anderson knew the grandfather. He didn't know very much. And so we started talking about the chemicals in the air. He knew that somebody had cancer. He knew that, people get sick, but he said he never thought about it. He has seen the compressor station because we were on that road, on Transco Road, but he said he had never thought about it. So because this has never been in the minds of people, just meeting with people like Karen Kaplan and Lynn Godfrey and others, we're given the language to reach the folks. Now, I can go on. I was laughing and talking about Mr. Walker. I'm a preacher, I got a double whammy as a preacher's kid. So I take that as why I talk so much. But I want to thank all of our allies. I want to thank all of our allies that are on here, and anybody that can join in the fight, like everyone was saying before me, how important it is, because there's power in numbers, to fight for the right for our children and grandchildren to be able to drink good water and breathe good air. And that's all I'm going to say. I think, was that 3 minutes? I wasn't looking at the time, but I want to next welcome Crystal Cavalier.
Hey, Anita, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? All right.
Loud and clear.
So I'm just going to speak a little bit before we have a piece that Kay was so graciously to help put together, her and Josh. So my name is Crystal Cavalier in Meku. I live in Pleasant Grove, which is 45 minutes south of Chatham, but I actually live 8 miles from where the MVP Southgate is going to end up, proposed to end up. I am Indigenous. I'm a citizen of the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation. And my story is, when I was a little girl, my grandparents and aunts and uncles, we would go up to the Bannister River and we would fish in the Bannister River because they have a lot of fishing weirs that, our people put there to help catch the fish. And, I've been fighting this pipeline since 2018. I actually stepped down as an elected tribal councilwoman for my tribe to fight this pipeline. And what you guys know is, you probably heard that the tribes made a settlement with the pipeline, and that's unfortunate. And we have to know that these tribes historically have been erased and marginalized. And while they think they're making the best decision, is trying to get consent or trying to get a seat at the table, they really just set us back because these pipeline companies have it in their mind to already have these things planned out. And they're thinking they're helping the community, but really they're not. And, you know, I'm going to come out with a statement next week about that. But my husband, Jason, and I, we've been so fortunate to get in touch with Ms. Anita Royson and then Lynn and a whole bunch of other people on this call to try to combine our efforts, because again, fighting together in unison and being able to be stronger, we can have a really serious coalition. And I really appreciate everybody's fights here. You know, we do have some more things coming. You know, I plan to speak out and speak up at every, you know, meeting, Virginia Air Board meeting there is. You're right, somebody on here mentioned earlier, North Carolina has, you know, they've denied it, but we still have to keep on them because they are being bought out by Dominion and Duke. Like our state General Assembly, they denied the representative to be appointed for North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality because she denied the MVP permits. And so we always have to stand up and fight for that. And so, you know, my husband and I, we've been committed to stand up and fight. And we will fight with everything we've got in our bodies. And with that, Josh, if you want to play the video, this is the third video that Kay had made for us. And it's just talking about how we need to come together as Black and Indigenous people, especially in Chatham, Pittsylvania County, Caswell County, Rockingham County, and Alamance County. So thank you so much for letting me be here.
Inani washte, wopila wakan, meni wachoni, aho matakwias. Some tribes would say water was the first gift the Creator gave us.
Let the spirit of the weaving waters into your heart.
And it was the most powerful element. It can douse flame, it can shape rock, it can nurture, and it can replenish a dehydrated living thing. It's only in the last 100 or 200 years or so that we've come up with all these ways that don't work in harmony with everything else and don't sustain. It's a great audacity that the Southgate Mountain Valley Pipeline extension would take on a traditional indigenous trades path, that they would do this. I just feel that this is very intentional, very malicious, a personal attack on our culture and community. You need to place your pipeline plan right smack on the trading path of our original nations of Monacan, Occaneechi, Saponi, Chiraw, Catawba. It's more than a slap in the face. It's actually a continuation of historic oppression and genocide to bring a poisonous structure through these territories, because the original communities cannot effectively advocate for themselves in resistance to this. Our existence since the beginning of creation is that all lives and all people and communities in this ecosystem work together in harmony. One could not live without the other. And so this is just how people existed, and it's what people understood, and it's what we've lost as a people. We've kind of put ourselves in the head of dominion, but even with that responsibility, even if that was true, how are we honoring that responsibility?
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for playing that. Like I said, this pipeline, they are not doing the studies that they need to do. They are coming through our communities. And while they said that they will talk with the Monacans and the Saponi tribe, again, we look at those relatives that are on the mountain that are being disturbed by this pipeline. That's just horrific. And, you know, like, I just don't understand it. And, you know, I just want to look at these people and just say, if you can take this bag of air, or if you can drink this fracked water, you can breathe through this plastic bag, then go ahead, build the pipeline. But if you can't do that effectively, then do not put it in our communities.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now, last but never least, we hear from Elizabeth and Anderson Jones, who will not only share their personal stories, but as chair of our Environmental Justice Committee, Elizabeth will let you all know how to join and support our very important work. Elizabeth or Anderson.
Good evening. Good evening. We live by faith, not by sight. And we're involved in a circle of protection. I'm the chair of the Pittsylvania County NAACP Environmental Justice Committee. And my husband Anderson, we are right next to the Lambert-Southgate compressor station office. Our neighbors sold their home, their farm, and they were bought by MVP LLC. We have been near this plant, the Transco-Williams Pipeline compressor station, for over 50 years, 1957. And Anderson's father even helped build it. He did get a job. I'm not sure what he did, but he worked there temporarily. Today, we see very few people working at the Transco-Williams Pipeline compressor station because it's computerized and most of the work is done by computer. Well, my personal story starts with the fact that our neighbors moved. They sold their property for quite a bit of money and they moved. Anderson and I have been planning this farm and this area living here for quite a few years. The Mountain Valley Pipeline LLC is taking that away from us. The greed for more profits and the need for more corporations to have fossil fuel to make money has hurt us. But why us? Why in our backyard? Why in the Bannister district in Chatham in Pittsylvania County? Well, it's because there is very little resistance. It's been here for quite a while, but why a third? And why in Pittsylvania County? Well, this is an environmental justice issue. And as a committee, and as the NAACP National has pointed out, we need to get in this fight and we need to win. Because Anderson's family farm is 98 years old. His uncle bought the farm, his great uncle bought the farm, and we have a history here. We have a history of tobacco growing and enjoying the fresh air, well, as fresh as it could be with emissions from Transco-Williams compressor station. And now we have a third one coming into the community to continue to poison us. What kind of poisons are we going to expect? Well, nitrous oxide, formaldehyde, volatile organic chemicals and compounds, and potentially hazardous air pollutants, which did I mention formaldehyde? All things that can shorten our lives, pollute our air, water, land, and we don't want that. We want to fight and earn what we deserve. We deserve a place where we can leave to our children. We deserve a place where value does not fall because an industrial site is letting poisonous hazards into the air. We also need to think about the fact that we're African American in Pittsylvania County's Bannister District. It's a minority majority group, African Americans, and as Crystal Cavalier said, indigenous people. I've been doing a lot of talking, but let me tell you how my husband Anderson feels. Let him tell you how he feels about the Lambert compressor station and his family's legacy here on Transco Road.
The Jones family farm was one of the beautiful areas in Chatham. We used to have cows, hogs, chickens. We had fruit trees. We had a wonderful farm, and the land was very fertile. We used to not, you have to use a lot of fertilizer because my father didn't like to use fertilizer because he said, gonna give you cancer. He told me that when I was 10 years old. And now you should just come and view the Jones family farm now, how the pipeline have came in and just destroyed the beautiful landscape. They put 6 to 8 feet mounds and stopped our farm road that my wife and I used to ride around on the buggy and just thank the Lord for this beautiful land that he gave us.
The pipeline is 42 inches wide. We got the big pipes on the family farm, and it is awful. As Anderson said, we have difficulty getting to the other side of the pipeline, and it's awful.
And on the other side, where I used to find artifacts, Native American artifacts, and now I know that I'm a Native American. My uncle was too. Now, he bought this land in 1923, and he had to leave his Native American land, just left it and went to work for sharecroppers. But when he got some money, he got some money to buy the land back. He bought this land, and it was a beautiful area. And you just got to understand, you just need to look at what they have done to it. It's very bad. And we'd have all these animals and just having a good old time and just enjoy our farm, the farm that my ancestor left me. And now it could be polluted by all of these chemicals that they're letting in the air. We used to smell it years ago. We didn't know what it was, but now it's come to life. Then we know what it is.
Anderson and I have addressed the Department of Environmental Quality Board in February. We addressed the Air Pollution Control Board here in the state of Virginia. And we're working hard, like so many others, to end this, to let them understand that we want to care for this creation care, a circle of protection from the harmful emissions from a new Lambert-Southgate compressor station that's passing fracked gas from one location to the other for greed, for profit. And we'll keep working at that. Now I'm going to put on my chair of the committee hat to just let you know that the NAACP is teaming with the Virginia State Conference NAACP, with Artivism, with the 7 Directions, and so many other groups. the Appalachian Voices. I'm sorry if I leave someone out, the Southern Environmental Law Center. And we're feeling that we can show up on September 17th in a big way and let them know that we're not kidding. We won't be bought off. We want to see our community with clean air for our children. You know, that we have elementary school, high school, even middle school, within 3 miles of the gas compressor station, fracked gas compressor station, harmful chemicals coming from those sites. I'm going to put my name on a list of the contact list because it's important that we know that we can join in, because we do need more stories. Anderson and I told ours tonight, and we could go on and on. We had 3 minutes, but it's a story that can't be told one time. This is family history. This is our home in Pittsylvania County. We're right at the fence and we don't like it. And we need to be like Union Hill and the areas of North Carolina that got this water permit denied to MVP. They have more work to do. They haven't been working to protect us. Not even the current one has been working to protect us. We don't get reports about our air quality, water quality. We don't get information. And being an environmental justice community, we know we need to get involved. So to get involved, I'm asking you to join our circle of protection and help us as a community of people working together to make it a better place for everybody. And we can do it. Faith is what we live by, and not by sight.
How can they get
all
in?
of that, I invite you to spread the word, to join us, to go online to our Facebook page, Pittsylvania County NAACP Facebook page. When you connect there, you'll be keeping up with the current information that we're getting from environmental groups and the DEQ and the Air Pollution Control Board. We have to work together on this because it takes a lot of voices. Sometimes it takes a lot of bodies. We need you to show up and to get your story to us, because we really need to hear from you. We need to talk to groups. If you have a group that you'd like us to talk to, I'm leaving the contact information in the chat room. Please feel free to contact us and let us speak to your group, because that way we will know that they will have the current information that's needed. Let's get fired up and ready to go.
All right, and are you having them to reach out to you on the NAACP PITTS COEJC@gmail.com, and I think that's in the chat, and your phone number. And we also need help putting up flyers. And like Elizabeth and everyone is saying, talk to your group, talk to your faith community, your friend about getting involved. This is so important. We're talking about saving lives. And remember, little David went up against a giant and he fell. So let us invite us to visit your congregation or to speak at a group and lead a discussion on the proposed Lambert compressor station. So like Elizabeth was saying, please go to the Facebook page group and leave your story, or you can call us and we can record your story, whatever is more comfortable to you, because historically the fossil fuel and other polluting industries have targeted rural, low-income, and minority communities to cite their dangerous infrastructure. And you've heard a lot from everyone tonight. So let's show them that Pittsylvania County is united, strong, and well able to create a circle of protection for our air, our lives, our land, and our children's future. Now, I want to thank you all for being with us this evening. And our invited speakers are now at an end. And we hope you will stay with us a bit longer. Raise your hands. There's been a lot of comments. So please stay with us. Raise your hands to share your own stories or questions. So now for, we're open for discussion and questions.
President Royston, before you open it up for
Yes.
discussion, I just wanted to say Bishop Stone is on the call with us right now. So if you want to give him an opportunity.
Okay. Oh, of course. Welcome, Bishop Stone.
How you doing? I do apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, I do apologize for my lateness. I was tied up in another meeting, but I say greetings to everyone. I will want to address primarily coming from the faith-based organization point of view. And I will apologize in my opening statement that we hope that my wording does not come off offensive to anyone. But as I've listened in our last few meetings that we've had, or even the ones that we've had on Zoom and the ones that we had publicly, one of the things that I think that is very important that we understand as what we're approaching is that we have our wording correctly, our perception and our understanding right. One of the things that I'm learning is that when we're dealing with organizations such as with organizations that have lots of money and have more money than I have in my pocket, and so one of the things that we understand is that they invite and they love the word fight. That's what they want to do. They want to make us fight. One of the things that I think that is very important that we understand that we're not in a fight, but rather we build. So I tell people, no, I'm not fighting, I'm building. And I heard Madam President, as she alluded to the fact of David and Goliath. And if we understand that Goliath showed up for a fight, but David showed up for opportunity. So what we have to do is to understand that we are not here to fight them, because that's what they want us to do. Because if we get in a fight with them, we won't win. They have more resources, they have more money, they have a bigger venue than we have. But what we understand is that we're not being lured into a fight. Because if you understand, even in scripture, when Nehemiah was there rebuilding the wall around Jerusalem, and that wall that was being rebuilt was a sign of protection. I do believe. Also, I heard somebody says that, you know, if we would unite together, we need protection, and that's what we have to build in Pittsylvania County is a wall of defense, of protection, and that wall needs to come from faith-based community. It needs to come from politicians. It needs to come from just regular civilians. That we build a wall, but we understand that in that same scripture, when Nehemiah was trying to rebuild the wall, Sanballat and Tobiah showed up in the midst of him trying to build and tried to pick a fight. So I think that we understand that we need to, it would be great that if we transition our thinking that we are not fighting, but we building, because that's what they want. They want us to stay in a fight mentality. They want us to stay in a very aggressive, that think that we're fighting, and we're not fighting. I don't know about you, but I don't think this is a fight. This is an opportunity that we need to build our community. We need to build our infrastructure. We need to build our people. We need to build what we're trying to do. So if we take on that mindset that we are building, And now let's go out into our communities and not tell people to join the fight with us, but join the work with us in building a wall of defense. So then when Goliath shows up to fight, he'll recognize that he came for a fight, but we came to build. So I just thank y'all for this opportunity. I'm with you 100%. I don't particularly live in that area, but I understand the concern. I understand what everyone is talking about. And I want you to know that I got my sleeves rolled up and I am here not to fight, but I'm here to build with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are building our circle of protection. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, we're open for discussion and questions. You still here? Hello?
I only usually put people to sleep on Sunday. I didn't think I put everybody to sleep today.
No, there's something with my video and with my screen. Are there others that are still on?
I can hear you.
We see you.
Anita, we can hear and see you just fine. I was scanning through the participants here to see if anyone had their hand up. Or...
Do they know how to unmute? Do they know how to unmute?
That is a good question. If you are trying to speak, but it's not getting through, there might be a little set of blue buttons up in the corner of your little window where you can unmute, or down at the bottom of the screen with the microphone.
The left-hand corner at the bottom, there's a microphone and it probably has a red line through it. So tap that and you'll be unmuted.
Also, if your camera is on, just wave your hand and we'll try and unmute you if you're having problems. Or okay, I see Henry Myers raising his hand.
I'm good. I'm good.
Mr. Myers, I see the top of your head.
Yes, I'm good. I unmuted and everything. I'm good. It was me that asked that everybody know how to unmute. Mine was actually on the top right portion of my window.
Oh.
Right in my little box. You put your pointer up there and it will show you mute. Just hit mute or unmute, whichever is showing, and it'll enable you to speak.
I have a question. There's an organization that spans Virginia and North Carolina, the Dan River Basin Association. I'm not involved with them, but I know people who are. Have they been involved in any of the work that's been going on with the Mountain Valley Pipeline up to this point? Does anybody know?
Who are they?
It's the Dan River Basin Association. I have friends that are involved with them. I know that they are environmentally aware, but they also do things like kayaking and biking and things like that.
I reached out to Tiffany. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kay.
No,
I reached out to Tiffany because she's been at a couple of our environmental justice things, but she couldn't make it tonight. Yeah, I'm hoping we could get them involved, though. I think it's a great idea. Have other folks had any luck?
Yes, they've been involved with okay, what's his name? From Good Stewards, the river keeper.
Stephen Pulliam?
Yeah, Stephen. He's been involving them, and they've been involved in the fight because it does cross the Dan River. So they've been involved.
Nick, is that Tiffany Underwood? No.
Hayward.
Who?
Tiffany Hayward.
Okay.
The Dan River Basin Association also signed on to comments from a number of groups during the comment period to DEQ.
one of the things I've become aware of with the little bit of research that I did recently was that unless you've already commented on this, you can't comment at the September meeting. That was what I was told anyway. So if Dan River Basin Association has already had input, though, they would be able to have input at the September meeting. Okay, well, and that leads me to a second question, which is, how do we move the needle on figuring out the September meeting so that, you know, I mean, that's less than a month away at this point.
Can I say one thing about commenting and not commenting? That's true. If you have not gone on the record, you don't get time. People who have gone on the record, and there were hundreds of comments, each get 3 minutes, and we can allocate those to people who have gone on the record. What I would recommend for people from Pittsylvania County who did not know that they had to go on the record is to allocate somebody who is able to speak for them to read a statement and to show that their whole process of people needing to know to, like, this has been a problem that if you don't go on the record, you can't then speak at the next level. And so, one, we want to make sure they're just really clear and concise in what we say to the air board. This is really overwhelming. So we don't need to have 1,000 disparate voices that are confusing. We need to have clear messages. But if you are local, you need to be heard. And if you were not on the record, there are people who would be willing to read your statement. So I agree with you, orchestrate and organize on this, but even if you were not on the record and you did not know to do that process, you may be able to find somebody who would be able to read a statement for you, such as myself. I would be willing, I have my own 3 minutes. I would be willing, certainly, and I know there's many of us who would be willing to take time to prepare.
I'll
Thank
give
you.
my 3 minutes to a local person. They're tired of hearing from me.
Oh, and Crystal Cavalier, they will charter a bus to take people down if people are, for those who are interested in going. There is power in numbers. And I can share some time too, if somebody has a message.
Not you.
I misspoke. Okay.
That's right here.
I got you.
I have a question, and perhaps for Suzanne Keller, who I'd like to recognize as having joined us as someone who knows about public health issues. So I spoke with several people who have health issues and do not want to tell a story. We have no way to link people's health issues directly with their having lived in the vicinity, or, you know, whatever distance from transit codes. So I also found people who don't want to speak publicly because they fear retaliation of some sort. I mean, people fearful of MVP or pipeline proponents in the area. But so that's kind of two different questions. But how do you make a connection? Heart disease, asthma. I mean, I'll stop.
If I may try to address the second part, anytime you're in a project and you have a number of people in the related area that have similar problems, that's how it relates. Not that one is shown to be directly affected, but when you have a number of similar problems in that same area, then you show that there may be some correlation.
But there, you don't have enough. These are common problems. I mean, how many people across Virginia have heart issues or diabetes or breathing issues, we can't, I don't see how it's possible to have enough information here to know whether there's a distinct effect from Transco, particularly when people don't want to draw attention to themselves. And
So,
Suzanne is ready to thank you, Suzanne.
Katie, I think what you've said is very important to bring to the Air Board. I would tell them, I talk to people who have health problems who live in the vicinity of this compressor station. They're afraid to come forward. I've talked to people who, in other words, bring that story to the Air Board. People are afraid of retaliation. Bring it to them. They need to hear that. In the Buckingham case, in the FERC environmental impact study, FERC did acknowledge that there were higher rates of asthma among African American people. And so when the judges heard, in the Fourth Circuit decision, the judges basically said the Air Board should have considered that. So even though there was no, it's very hard to show a direct cause and effect between these compressor stations and health problems. That doesn't matter because it's the existing vulnerability and sensitivity of the population that will be nearby that should be considered by the Air Board. So I wouldn't worry about it so much in that sense, as long as somebody in their comments have spoken of the population that lives there, that may be enough to be laying the groundwork. Now, we did have a little bit of health data in the Buckingham case that was collected by the door-to-door survey, but I'm not so sure that was, it's hard to know. I mean, Mark might be able to speak to that. It's hard to know. I really think that the court was more appalled by the utter lack of consideration given to the population in the vicinity of the compressor station. And the court was also, they were saying, well, why did you put it here and not over here? There was another location for that compressor station. And why didn't you look at conditions on the ground and the people on the ground there?
My question is what is our, excuse me, what is our attorneys saying at this point?
Hello?
Are you addressing this to Mark Sabbath?
Well, I'm
yes.
I'm here to share the perspective, gained from the Friends of Buckingham case and from being involved in this. I can't speak I'm not our attorney at this point, so I can't speak as an attorney for the Pittsylvania County NAACP. I can say that as I said, it's something that we are watching very closely, and we're with you and others in trying to get the best story before the Air Board for September 17th, and hoping that they make the right decision. And then depending on what happens on the 17th, we'll all evaluate next steps from there.
Are you
so
no, go ahead, finish.
I apologize. So is there anybody that we know that are involved in these meetings with the attorneys to have any type of what's the game plan in sight? I know we're meeting and talking as citizens and as an organization, but do we know what the front runners are preparing? And maybe that's said and I missed it.
I don't know,
Well,
maybe
it's
this is
not
not
going to
good.
be easy. It's never easy. It's never easy to fight the powers that be. But if we have the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and that's what we want. We want to have people there who will stand with us and our comments, because some of us, as I said earlier, were in the February and the Air Pollution Control Board, I believe it was June, and we were heard. And it was important to get heard because now we're on the record. But part of it is the people who are being selected to the boards, their attitudes and their persuasions need to be supportive of ending environmental racism and environmental injustice. And that's why the NAACP is involved nationally, because these stories in Pittsylvania County are just a touching stone. The same is true for tribal nations and the pipelines and the locations of fracked gas and fossil fuel producers. And that can be proven by the numbers. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. You know, there were several chat questions and comments in the chat that would be good to be brought forward. And I don't think it's a private thing because it's in the chat. So Mark Joyner is on the line. Are you interested in sharing any information with us?
You know, is Mark still on? I did see him for most of the call, but I'm not sure he's still on.
Well, he has and he did have some interesting comments. So, Josh, are you compiling the comments as well, or?
So all the chat from this call will be saved.
Thank you.
As our recording.
Anita, I see that Richard Walker's hand is raised.
Oh.
But Kay, your
Mr.
hand
Walker?
for mine.
Yeah, you go for me.
I just was wondering, between now and the Air Board meeting, do you folks have some planned activities or planned rallies or anything of that nature in that area? Or is there a means or area that you're posting events, upcoming events regarding your rallying?
Right now we have flyers and we'll need a lot of help in passing out flyers. We also have, at this moment, I don't know, we don't have an event, our next step event, but we are door knocking and talking to people. So, Elizabeth?
Can I add that we are in the middle of a pandemic and we are respecting the virtual meetings, as is the national office and the state as well. And we are doing the things that we need to do. I trust everyone on this call has had their vaccinations and is waiting for their boosters, but we need to respond in a way that will get the attention to our issues, and we will continue with the publicity, which includes a lot of flyers and contact with people, including our location on Facebook.
And we're doing on the radio.
Can I just add one tiny thing? We understand that there were some folks that were unable to make the meeting tonight, or maybe even anybody here may actually process, it may take a little bit to process what you heard today and kind of reach out and start talking to your neighbors and, you know, getting the historical account of what was going on and kind of put things together. So there is going to be, between now and the September 17th date, opportunities to provide your stories, your narratives, or any information that you would like the project team to look into in further detail. So the more information we can bring to the meeting, the public hearing on the 17th, the better. So there's so many other ways that you can do it. You can submit an email to Elizabeth Jones, and we've been putting the email address in the chat. There's also a Facebook group that you can encourage folks or yourself to just take your iPhone, your smartphone, and just video away. You can either give us a narrative or a spoken narrative, or if there's a site that you would like us to know about, feel free to take pictures, take a video and post it up on the Facebook, or if it's easier, email it. So we're accepting written narrative, we're accepting audio, we're accepting video, we're accepting pictures. Anything you have, send it. Scan a document, tell us to look up newspaper articles. We're looking for everything and anything. And we've got a lot of depositories for you to be able to do that. And if not, if you have something, we can try and, you know, hard copies that may have difficulty in scanning, we'll try and get that. If you have any archival documentation that have been in your family for generations, we'll try and figure out how to handle that. But like Elizabeth said, we understand that we're in the middle of COVID, so we'll try and figure out what's the best and safest way to do the transfer of hard copy information.
Okay, are there any more comments?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And I'm wondering if this is what Bishop Stone was trying to get to too. We may share this question, I'm not sure, but I guess it's about standing. So I don't know who can function as Friends of Buckingham did in Union Hill as the client, which might be able to be represented by an environmental lawyer. And I'm not sure if the local branch of the NAACP could be that same kind of client, or when that process, whether that process has to wait for the terrible violation that would be the Air Board passing this permit, or whether it can be the process of a legal defense can be begun before the air permit is passed. And I excuse me, Bishop Stone, for speaking for you. I don't know if that was your question, but it is mine.
I mean, you're exactly right, Kay. I just want to have a clear understanding who is the client, and I mean, what we're doing here is fantastic, but it has to go to the next level, and I'm just not sure who the client is, what's the game plan, and maybe, like I said, maybe I missed it, and then if I did miss it, I want to get caught up to speed. And because I said at one of our other meetings, you know, what is the plan if this does pass? Do we have an alternative plan? I mean, what do we do? And what I hate, what I would really hate, that if we just focuses on this has got to stop, and I agree. And I'm praying and doing everything I can do that this doesn't go forward. But we have to, and I think it's important that we have to look at what do we do if it goes forward. You know, do we have a plan in place that we can negotiate with them and do something different? Because if we out, then we just out, and I think we all lose this at that point. So yes, you spoke for me well.
Can I say a little bit? I know the lawyers can't quite talk to this, but having gone through this multiple times, it really is a decision that's going to have to come out of a lot of legal circumstances in what that, there's still a lot in front of us in terms of the decision. And the legal firms who have been allies, certainly SELC, certainly Chesapeake Bay Foundation, there's a lot of legal firms out there that have supported grassroots organizations on the EJ level. They make comments, but they're going to need to, if this thing gets approved, and certainly we hope that it won't. We know that we have some concerns that it could. But if that happens, there's a month, and I'm just going to be honest, having been through it with these law firms before, they need to know they have a winning case before they take it on. What we need to worry about at this point is getting every single thing on the record. It has to be on that Air Board record so that the lawyers will be able to use it moving forward. And then the other thing is we have to thank all these legal teams that have been so supportive and ask them not to be egotistical and to work together. What worked with Union Hill, obviously, was several just really amazing legal firms with great people working together and making the strongest case. But picking the specific people from Union Hill, it was problematic. We're not going to go into all those issues of how certain individuals came to represent a larger community, but it is in some ways about what's going to win. And so I love Kay's question is, can the NAACP be that that I don't know, but could it be an actual institution, or is it going to fall, as we've had in many of these cases, back to individual stories? And I don't know if any of our legal they're not our representatives, the legal experts who are out there who have been really, really great about providing us information, if they could answer that.
I'll just echo what Mary said. This isn't the right forum to be talking about legal strategy for something that might happen a month from now. It is something that a lot of people are thinking about and will continue to have discussions about. But I completely agree with Mary that the effort right now and the effort that we can all be involved in is doing everything we can to get the right decision on September 17th.
That's good. That's good. And the NAACP will be talking and continue talking to the experts and to the representatives from the different organizations. And again, when the time comes, if it comes, and I hope it doesn't, we will be prepared. And that's all I should say. Are there any more questions or comments? Well, again, our thanks and invitation to join us in reaching out to other members of the regional community threatened by Lambert and the MVP and the MVP Southgate. Mark your calendars for mid-September air permit hearing and decision on Lambert, and plan to take your place in our growing circle of protection. And remember, if you want to go, if we're going to be in Richmond, that Cavaliers have transportation that will be provided. So I just want to thank all of you, and just remember how serious this is. And as the bishop said, as we build this wall of protection, this circle of protection, we're stronger together. And I thank all the organizations, named and unnamed, that are working with us for your assistance. So if there's nothing else, no other hands? Well, great work, everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.